So now I get to welcome to our virtual stage the actual hostess today, who will be in conversation with Ben Mezrich. You know her voice well, and here is her amazing home and face. From 104.1 The Mix, the second better half of Carson and Kennedy. This
Kennedy.
is
that's fine.
Kennedy, right?
Hello. Welcome, welcome. So I'm super excited to have Ben back with us and Tanya. Are you guys here? I think they're there.
They're close.
So we're going to talk to Ben today about many, many things. He's got a lot going on.
We're here.
There we are. Hi, guys.
Oh, turn off our camera.
We have appeared.
I hate it when that happens, but it's fine. We'll all get through it together. So, Ben, we have a lot to talk about today. You've been busy since we last chatted.
I have. It's been a busy couple of weeks, yes.
But before we do that, I'd like to talk about the creative writing challenge that Raising a Reader is doing and that you guys are donating autographed books for. So, Tanya, I know you've got all that info. You want to drop that knowledge for us?
We were so thrilled at all the entries. It was really, really hard to make a decision. So we decided on winners from 3 different age groups: Sevilla in 2nd grade, Carlos in 3rd grade, and Nolan in 7th grade. All the entries were simply fantastic and just such a joy to read. And we were so inspired by all of the ideas that were submitted. So please keep on reading and keep on writing, kids.
Awesome. Thank you guys for that. All right. So Ben, I figure we're going to go alphabetically.
Okay.
So we'll go billions, bitcoins, and mechanic. Sound good to you?
That sounds great.
Okay, so first and foremost, you're part of Billions. It's the show on Showtime. For those of you that don't know, it's about rich people trying to get richer and politicians trying to stop them, amongst many, many other things.
Right.
How is it that you ended up in the writer's room for Billions?
Yeah, so this is my first time working in television. Basically on Twitter, Brian Koppelman, who runs the show and created it, he also wrote the movie Rounders, if people saw that movie. So we didn't know each other personally, but we had sort of followed each other's careers for years. And he reached out to me on Twitter, really to talk about my book, Bitcoin Billionaires. But as we were talking, he said, have you ever written for TV before? And I said, well, actually, I've never really worked with people. I'm always by myself. But he's like, I think you'd really love it. Would you like to join our writer's room and be a producer on the show for a year and give it a shot? So I said, yeah. And then he said, okay, can you be here tomorrow? So really it was like a sudden kind of thing. This was last summer. And it was in New York, so I had to take the Excella back and forth. And I was in the writer's room for 9 weeks. I was a consulting producer and I wrote episode 3 of this season, of season 5. It was really, really fun. At Billions, it's almost like a college seminar because they have all these writers in a room. It's like 6 or 7 people. And then, I think there's a picture up of the writer's room there. And there's Brian and David next to me. They basically bring in real billionaires and real lawyers and real politicians to speak to us to try and get all the real stories out. And I was kind of there because most of the writers were younger and out of LA and didn't really know the world that we were writing about as well as I do. They wanted someone who actually knows billionaires and, understands what these people are like and what they think like. And so I was there kind of as a real world liaison in a way, but it was an incredible experience. I learned so much. These are some of the best writers on television. And I got to write my own episode and be on set for the shoot of my whole episode and hang out with the actors. It was just a great experience all around.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about the episode that you wrote.
Yeah.
I knew you had written one of the episodes in the season and I was binging it. So I was just kind of watching because I was way behind. And I didn't know which one was yours. And then the episode starts and the kid is mining Bitcoin and I go, Ben!
Yeah, I thought it definitely thematically felt like something I would have written. When I first handed the draft in, it was almost like an 80s movie. It was kind of like, it was like a John Hughes movie almost, but I wanted it to be about kids in a school and put acts in the environment of a prep school, but being full on acts. And it was really cool. They let me write this crazy greed is good speech, which he gives to the students. And it was so fun. And, they shot it with hundreds of extras, which, it was neat to watch the whole thing happen. But yeah, I think my episode was a little thematically, it's interesting when you write for a show like that, that's been running for a lot of years, there's only so much you can do that isn't part of that story.
Right.
So I was able to get a story in, and then Brian and David take it and they add elements that have to fit with all of the other things that they've already written. So it's a tricky process, like jamming a self-contained story into an existing storyline, which is what that was. So it was cool. It was a great learning experience for me.
Is it weird having your script be taken by somebody else and go, we're just going to do this and this and this?
Yeah, so television.
Like, no, I like that part.
No, I'm not like that. Television is really, really a group effort. So it's very different even than writing for movies. When you write for movies, you write a screenplay, you hand it in, you edit it, but in general, it's your project. When you write for television, there's a room full of people and you go through every step of it. And then in the end, the showrunner says what's really going to be in the episode or not.
Some of the great scenes from your episode are going to show up later in the season.
Yeah, so I'm a consulting producer on all the episodes this year. So I was involved in all of the episodes. Unfortunately, we only shot 7 of them before the virus hit. So we split the season in 2. This coming Sunday is the 7th episode, so it's the end of first season half. And then we'll do the other half after we can start shooting again. So, it's really cool. But yeah, I don't mind when people edit me and stuff like that. I usually, have no problems with someone, if they're going to make it better, they're going to make it better. And in the end, you have to be willing to sort of let that happen if you're going to work in TV. Yeah.
I can't stand it when people mess with my stuff.
But
all right, so
later on.
Yeah, I mean,
there were some bits that we were like, oh, that's such a great part of that episode, and then we're glad that
into a later part.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to see all that. All right, so let's move on to Bitcoin Billionaires. For those of you that don't know, there's a book that came out in May of 2019 about Bitcoins and the Winklevoss twins. So sort of like an extension of Accidental Billionaires.
Yeah, I mean,
it's sort of like, yeah.
Yeah, so the Winklevoss twins were like the bad guys in The Social Network, and now they're the heroes of this news story. And it's a really wild thing where they went from being like the dumb jocks who were chasing the Karate Kid around the gym in the first story to being the guys who kind of launched Bitcoin. They were a big part of its origins. They owned 200,000 Bitcoin, which they bought at $7 a coin, and now it's almost $10,000 a coin. So they became billionaires on this crazy new form of money. So I wrote a book that kind of chronicles their ride from starting at the end of The Social Network to today, where they're worth billions of dollars and running this whole new revolution. And I came to have a new appreciation of the twins. They're much more than just the package that you see. You look at them and you think you know them, but the reality is much more complex than that. And so that's what the book is about. It's really a thriller about the world of Bitcoin and the twins ride in it.
Yeah, I absolutely enjoyed sort of learning more about them in the book, and I think that they are the hardest working people on the planet. So what was that like working with them to write the book? Did they push you?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of respect for those guys. They're guys who really, they will never give up. They're very detail oriented and they're very sort of intense people because they're so driven. But they're really actually great guys. Like I get along with them very well. I reached out to them and they were not mad at me for The Social Network, which was nice. And I started going back and forth to New York and hanging out with them all the time for about a year to put the story together. And they let me write, a lot of stuff about them that may not be flattering. And some of it, it shows them in one light and shows them in the other light. And they're controversial figures in the Bitcoin world because the Bitcoin world is made up of mostly libertarian anarchists. It started, as this hacker kind of fake money that was used originally to buy drugs on this site called Silk Road. So when Bitcoin first started, it was majority use of it was to buy illegal things on the internet because it's untraceable, because no one knows, how much you have. And it's kind of like peer-to-peer. I can send you a Bitcoin without anybody knowing. So that's what it was originally used for. And the Winklevi twins come in and they're the men of Harvard in their suits. And they want to see Bitcoin become part of the regular financial world. They want it to be something that's regulated, something that you can own just like you own money in the bank, that you feel safe buying and selling. So there are people in the Bitcoin world who don't like the Winklevoss twins. So that's part of the crux of the story is there's this battle between the libertarian anarchists who built Bitcoin and the Winklevoss twins who are trying to take it to a new place.
I have a quick question from the chat. Have the twins forgiven Mark Zuckerberg?
No. So the twins, in my opinion, are still furious with Mark Zuckerberg.
Yes,
And
they
it wasn't
should be.
just, the way they tell me it is this. So they believe Mark stole their idea for Facebook, that he worked for them, pretended to work for them, wrote all these emails to them, pretending to be working on it when really he was launching Facebook, and did it in a duplicitous manner. What upset them the most was the lying and the deception.
Yeah.
They think Mark is a very bad guy. And if Mark had simply come to them and said, I'm working on this other project, it's not the project I was working on with you guys, it's a little different, maybe you want to be involved, maybe you don't, there would have been no problems. But the fact that he tricked them, and then if you read Bitcoin Billionaires, I have all these IMs in it, these instant messages that Mark sent that were uncovered later that I did not have in the social network, they paint Mark in a really bad light. He was very kind of purposeful in deceiving them. And I can't use the language that he used here because I don't know if there are kids involved, but he uses some really nasty language to describe the twins and what he's going to do to them. And so it's pretty obvious that he did this purposefully, at least from what you read in the instant messages. So the twins are not, I don't know if they'll ever, forgive's the wrong word. There's a moment where they're in Burning Man, where they run into the number 3 guy from Facebook and there's a big hug it out moment. Yeah. And they almost run into Mark. And I asked them what would have happened. And they said, we probably would have hugged it out because it's Burning Man and that's what you do at Burning Man. So I think that there's a road to forgiveness, but I don't think that they have forgiven him yet. And I don't think Mark's the kind of guy who will ask, from his point of view, the twins have, had nothing to do with Facebook and they should just be, doing their own thing. But it's really weird because they get big in Bitcoin and suddenly Mark launches a new form of money, which was called Libra.
It's Gemini.
Right. So he launched his own cryptocurrency called Libra after the twins launched their company called Gemini. So there's obviously something going on that Mark hasn't gotten rid of either. I think he's still carrying these feelings towards the Winklevoss twins as well. So
yeah, it's very Shakespearean.
It's Shakespearean.
The battle between
right.
these 3 people.
It's a great
their
story.
childhood.
It's a great
Yeah,
story.
they're locked into it, and I don't think it's over yet. There's going to be another episode, I'm sure, coming up.
Well, speaking of the Winklevi, they, along with Stampede Ventures, is going to be making the movie of Bitcoin Billionaires. How excited are you there? You really haven't.
Yeah, we announced it last week. Got announced on the deadline last week that Stampede Ventures, which is run by Greg Silverman. Greg Silverman used to run Warner's, so he's a really incredible producer. He was responsible for Harry Potter series, a lot of sort of the big projects that went through Warner's studio, and he is going to be making the movie. The Winklevoss twins are involved as producers, which is really cool. So they'll have some, input in terms of the reality of the story. And right now it's actually happening. So as Hollywood is unfreezing, right now we're meeting with filmmakers and screenwriters and actors. It'd be great to get Armie Hammer back again.
I was about to ask you that.
I love Armie. I think Armie is amazing. We'll see. There's a couple other characters that Charlie Shrem is a character in the book that we'd love to get, like a Jonah Hill or someone like that. So I think we'll be talking to a lot of really cool people, and it's going to be an awesome movie. So we'll see how it goes, but I think it's going to be developing over the next few months.
I'm so excited for you.
Yeah.
You just don't have anything going on. It's so boring. So,
well, you know what? I've always said if you lock a writer up for 2 months, you're going to get some stuff out of him. So basically, I tell Tanya, all you need to do is lock me in the attic for 3 months, and we'll have another book. That's what I do.
You might have it 3 more months. I don't know when we're getting it out. So we can't wait to see what will happen there. And then let's talk about The Mechanic. For those of you that don't know, The Mechanic is a serialized novella. It came out in the Boston Globe. Every day was a chapter for 15 days. And it was a story that includes the Encore Casino, Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, Paul Revere, so many things like this. How did this come to be?
Yeah, so basically it was kind of out of the blue. The editor-in-chief of the Boston Globe, Brian McGorry, called me up, and he had been thinking about doing a serialized novella in the newspaper. And this is something they used to do like in the Dickens era. Mark Twain did one. I think Tom Wolfe did one. But it hasn't really been done in a long time. But everyone's stuck at home. And his thinking was people are sick and tired of reading this negative, horrible news every day. If you want to see something else in the newspaper, it would be cool if there was like a story there. So he asked me if this is something I'd be interested in doing. And I thought about it and I was like, well, I only want to do it if I can come up with a full-on Da Vinci Code style national treasure thriller. I don't want to do one of these stream of consciousness blog type things, because there are writers doing that, but I just don't find that as compelling. It's not going to draw you in the way I wanted to draw people in. So I basically spent 24 hours coming up with a plot and an outline, and then I did it, and I wrote the whole book in about 12 days, which I don't recommend to anybody to do something like that. So it was really intense lifting. When they first called me, I thought Brian meant we would do like 1 or 2 chapters a week, but he meant 1 or 2 chapters a day. So I got into this crazy, like frantic thing to write the whole thing in this short period of time. But it really worked out great. And what was amazing was an audience grew every day. And this is very unusual for something like this. Usually you have a big first day and then it goes down every episode. This one, it just grew and grew and grew and grew. And by the end, there were a couple 100,000 people reading this, which is really wild. It was like a big book club in New England. And I was getting so many emails and photos of people with their stack of newspapers. And it was coming out on the cover of the newspaper often and online. So there was a lot of ways to read it. It was amazing. And, you know, I wanted it to be just a distraction for people. It was a distraction for me. I spent 2 weeks and didn't take my temperature once, which was great. And I wanted everyone who was reading it. See, I'm one of these like crazy hypochondriacs.
He had ordered a pulse oximeter.
Yeah, I have a pulse oximeter on one finger and a thermometer, and like continuously, even though I haven't come near a person in 90 days.
He sends us his oxygen level every day.
Yeah, right, exactly, which is insane a little bit. But I mean, that's what I do. But this made me think of nothing else but the mechanic. And I wanted, if even one person picked up the newspaper and read this and was happy, that to me was a positive outcome. And it ended up just being incredible. And the Globe, you know, Linda Henry and Brian, you know, they were brilliant to come up with this idea to give it the space that they gave it and allow an audience to find it. Was just a risky thing for them to do, because who knew if it was going to work or not, but it really worked well. And the artwork, you see the artwork on that picture. I mean, they did an amazing job. The artist there, she is a spectacular artist, and I want to get all those things on my walls because it was just great. It was a great opportunity for me, and you know, I didn't take any money for it. I just did it. I wrote a book for free, which I'd never done in my career before. But it felt, you know, it was like, it didn't feel like something that I just wanted to do it and see if I could do it. Also, it was a challenge, and that kind of took some pressure off me, because I was like, if I don't make it, you know, hey, no one's paying me, right? So it was that kind of a thing. But it was just really awesome. And
in the original iteration, it was going to be a choose your own adventure kind of book. So I don't know if people would have enjoyed that or would have wanted to choose.
That would have been really hard.
That would have been an immense amount of work.
Yeah, I thought about it and I was like, I don't know how we would do that, because you'd have to you'd really be writing all day and all night to try and, you know, make that happen. But it worked out really great, and it was really cool. So hopefully, you know, people gravitated to it and found fun in it. Yeah.
Ian has a question from the chat. Ian is asking, what is the conversation like during such intense periods of writing?
Oh, that's to Tanya. That's a question to Tanya. Yeah, Tanya, what's the conversation like?
It's, you know, we talk a lot about the plot, and, you know, he had a lot of questions about it, and he bounces the ideas off of me and off of our kids, actually. So we're eating all our meals together, and we're discussing what's going to happen with these mechanics and, you know, the bells and all the science and all that stuff. So it's you know, it's a lot of plot driven.
Yeah, it's a family affair. My dad is a scientist, and so he was the one I would ask all the kind of crazy science questions to. I just called him over and I was like, you know, if you wanted to you know, change lead into gold using sound waves, how would you do it? And he's like, what are you talking about? But I mean, it was like things like that where I was really, you know, always involving people around me, because I don't know enough on my own. So Tanya's always been a secret weapon in that regard. I send her to do research on the USS Constitution, or I would ask the kids about the Tea Party Museum and things like that. So it was a lot of that.
It also seems to me to just be an absolute love letter to the city of Boston.
Yeah, I mean, that was
takes place here, that every inch of it is mired in some part of Boston, or, you know, swan boats or Southie. And was that your intent, to keep it just
Yeah, so when the Globe came to me, I said, I only want to do this. It's got to be set right in Boston. It's got to be along the Freedom Trail, because I've always been into American history and Paul Revere, and he's a very interesting figure. What we think we know about Paul Revere is all not true, and it turns out that he was a technologist, he was a scientist, he was the greatest copper worker of his time, and he could make these sheets of copper that no one else knew how to make. And he was obsessed with bells. That's true. He made 300 bells in his career, and he did the top of the State House with the copper. Nobody really knows anything about Paul Revere except for the Midnight Ride, which didn't happen at all the way it's written in the poem.
Right.
So I've always been into that, but I wanted it all to take place in Boston, you know, in places that everyone could go. And what's great now is actually the Paul Revere House and the USS Constitution Museum, you know, got excited, reached out to me, and I'm going to do events with them around the book, and just sort of, it's supposed to be, you know, a hometown kind of thing. So, yeah.
I just love it. I just love it so much. And did you have something that you wanted to tell me this time? Do I get to know the secret?
Yeah, so, I mean, a little bit. So it is actually, there was a big Hollywood get very excited about this, and we had a huge kind of auction going on that's actually still kind of ongoing. But it looks like it is going to be a big, you know, motion picture or television show. I can't really tell you which one, but it's going to be a very big project that's actually going to make it to a screen.
So exciting. Are they going to film it here? They have to film it here.
Yeah, that's the goal, is
We're
to film
pushing for that.
Film it in Boston. What's really great about the story and Boston is it's a very self-contained kind of situation. You actually could film it even in these times. You could figure out a way to do it, because if you read the book, every chapter has 1 or 2 people in it, not 100 people in it.
Yeah,
So
sure.
even the action scenes are kind of very controlled, and so I think it'll shoot in Boston. I think that's the goal.
Yeah, we pushed really hard for 21 to be shot in Boston, and
Yeah.
that was one of the first films.
I don't know how
helped
you do
open
it
up
otherwise. I don't,
Hollywood East.
Yeah, that was amazing.
And
then
same with the Social Network.
Social Network
they really
is
wanted
mostly
them
in
to
Boston,
shoot as
yeah.
much as they could here.
Yeah, we love it when using Boston. It's such a great backdrop for movies, and it's, you know, so many smart people move through this city all the way back to Paul Revere, and so it's great to be able to highlight it. But you know, Mark Wahlberg has to get in there somewhere, so that's the plan. Mark and Ben Affleck and everybody.
okay, well, I'm available too. If you just
And of course.
need anyone. I mean, I can't play a 22-year-old, but there's got to be something.
Yeah.
A really quick question. How do your interests affect your children's interests? So the things that you're writing about affect your kids, or vice versa?
That's a great question. So both of our kids are really into reading. You know, we've pushed reading from a very young age, and we kind of let them read whatever they want for the most part. So they're really into graphic novels and things like that, which is really cool. In terms of what I write, you know, I bounce things off them all the time, and they get interested in some things and not interested in other things, depending on what we're talking about.
Yeah, our son is especially interested in how many bad words he can count.
Yes, our son, I've caught my son going through my adult books looking for bad words many times. And then Aria, I think, knows more about Bitcoin than any other 8-year-old out there.
Wow.
She'll walk around asking about Bitcoin. They got to hang out with the Winklevoss twins, so that's pretty cool. No, they know more about Bitcoin than I think most adults do.
Yes, they were saying that in the, what was it about in the hot tub in Florida that, if you were,
my kids asked me if I was Satoshi, who was the creator of Bitcoin. Asher was like, "Are you Satoshi?" I was like, "Why are you asking me that?" He's like, "Because that guy in the hot tub was pointing to you and said something about Satoshi." I'm like, "No, I'm not Satoshi. I wish I was Satoshi, but I'm not." Yeah, our kids do follow sort of the storyline. Some of them. I mean, sometimes I'm writing about Vegas, and they can't read about that yet. But when I write a book that's more kid-oriented, they can read it. So yeah.
Yeah, and they both just really love to write as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they're going to be good storytellers, which is great.
And just really quick, just tell us why Raising a Reader is important to you guys, and why you want to help support all the time, which you have given so much time and energy to, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, I've always said that the most important thing is reading. I really feel like our world is going to be saved by kids reading. It's just so important to start as early as you can, and it changes your whole life. I really think it opens your brain up in ways that you don't even realize, and even just reading to kids is so enormous in terms of everything that happens in the rest of their life, and it's such a little thing that just grows and grows and grows in such a big way. And so an organization that's aimed around literacy and kids is just, it's really important to us.
Yeah, it just makes sense for us. We're so supportive of all of the literary organizations in town, and especially ones that involve children. We just think it's really such an important group to be helping, and we're really excited to be a part
when
of it.
I was a kid, my parents had a rule that we had to read 2 books a week before we were allowed to watch TV. And so starting at a really early age, I became a speed reader for the wrong reasons, because I wanted to watch Saved by the Bell and stuff. But I mean, I was an obsessed reader, and books were like, my best friends growing up. I was just books, and I read everything. And I think that was just a big, important way that I learned to understand the world. And today, my kids' generation, they read and they read and they read. Books are so important to them, and it's just awesome. So any organization that revolves around that is great.
Awesome. Well, you guys, I'm all done here with my questions. So thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me and everybody here at Raising a Reader.
Well, we love you, Kennedy.
I love you guys so much, and I'm just so happy for your success. So,
thank you. Thank you, Kennedy. You're so kind. Sorry, I know me coming back is like the worst thing, because it means like our time is running out, which makes
but I was all done with questions, so I didn't have anything else.
Okay, great. Well, it's kind of like Saved by the Bell, where it's just like time out, everything freezes. You have all the time in the world.
Oh, I like that you know that reference. Good. Time out.
Time out. Well, actually, no, I'm kind of curious, Ben, if you, given that unfortunately we don't have all the time in the world, and you can't Zach Morris and get more time, you're really busy, it sounds like, in your house. And Tanya, I know you have lots of projects going on. When you have deadlines and you're working on 2 or 3 different, ideas for things you're writing, can I ask where do you fit in? How do you make time to read and do some of those like more those everyday things, but like you said, that are so important? Like, what does that look like in your house?
I mean, the thing about being a writer is it's even when you have tons and tons of work, you still feel like a lazy person most of the time, because you're just sitting. So I do work very hard, but I write very, very quickly. I write by page number and not by time. So if I'm going to write 6 pages a day, and it might take me an hour and it might take me 6 hours. So some days I actually have a lot of time to do these other things, and some days I have less time.
And recently he's playing Pop-A-Shot with the kids.
Yes, we got a Pop-A-Shot, and so I'm schooling the kids in Pop-A-Shot. We try and find, the pandemic has been in some ways a good thing that our family's together all the time, and this is something that's very rare. Normally, we don't see each other this much, and so I've gotten to be able to work around that, because I can see the kids at any time, at 10 a.m., at noon, at 4, at 7. Tanya, of course, is seeing them at all those times. Yeah. But I mean, you kind of figure out how to regulate that. In terms of reading, right now I get sent so many books by new authors who want blurbs that most of my reading is these advanced copies. So I just get advanced copies and I look through them, so I get to see things before they come out, which is kind of cool. So it's, I pleasure read. I'm also rereading weird science fiction books, like The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy right now I'm reading, and I'm reading some Asimov Foundation series, because I don't know, I find these vast books like to be compelling in this time period. But Tanya's been reading The Mechanic.
The Mechanic. No, I've been reading The Golden Compass to the kid, actually out loud to the kids. And I like reading middle grade fiction, because that's our genre. So it's helpful for me to do, see what else is out there and read the classics and read, contemporary middle grade fiction as well. And it helps that I can read it to my kids at night.
Oh man, all 3 of those books are incredible. I know, with books and that are television shows, the recent version of The Golden Compass was fun to watch, and
we haven't seen it yet.
Is that kid appropriate? Because we watched the movie, the Nicole Kidman movie with the kids, and then I saw there was this new, I think it's Netflix or HBO, one of those networks. Is it kid appropriate?
Remind us, how old are your children?
7 and 9, or actually 8 and 10. Sorry, they had just had birthdays.
Obviously, I am not a parenting expert, even though I have 2 children, which basically just makes me dangerous. So I'll just say, in my own humble opinion, I would think a 10-year-old maybe, an 8-year-old maybe not, but every child is a unique person, so it probably really matters on exactly with your kids. So I don't want to get myself in trouble saying yes, no, or otherwise. The rating agencies haven't called me yet, and they probably won't.
But the
Okay,
lead
so I know
character
we're
is a strong young woman. So, you know.
well. Oh, Lyra. I mean, the actress she's really great. So now I know. Now we're far afield, but it's fun to watch. Okay, well, so I have to say thank you. I also want to ask a very important question, which is for people who might want to donate a Bitcoin to Raising a Reader right now. Is that like an easy thing to do? Like, do you know enough about Bitcoin to tell us how someone could donate a Bitcoin right now? Because it seems
Sure.
like
Well, I think Raising a Reader would need to get a Gemini wallet. So you get an electronic wallet, and there's a number of them, but the Winklevoss twins own a company called Gemini, which is basically a bank, an exchange for Bitcoin. And so whoever has a Bitcoin could send it to you. But even if you didn't have a wallet, they could actually text you a Bitcoin. You need a way to download it, but basically they would just text you a string of numbers that would be your Bitcoin. So people could be texting you Bitcoin right now if you wanted. And there's different ways, as someone is putting there, you can go to BitPay and convert it, right, into money. There's various ways to do it, but it's instant. So someone could be sending you Bitcoin right now. And they can send you fractions of a Bitcoin all the way down to one.
I'm sorry. Nope. Raising a Reader Massachusetts does not accept fractions of a Bitcoin, but we would accept a full Bitcoin.
Full Bitcoin.
And you said right now it's worth about $10,000.
Well, close. So it was $10,000 like 3 days ago. It's like $9,200 today. I didn't look at it this morning, but yeah, it's fun to watch the Winklevi fortune go up and down by like $100 million every day. But it's a crazy. Right now, it's a little bit like that. But you know, it is. Someone can send it to you very quickly if they want to.
And we want to give a shout out to Brookline Booksmith as well. We really appreciate. They've always been so supportive of us as authors. You know, helping us with events. So I see people are talking about it in the chat.
Yes. Well, yeah, perfect. Well, okay. So don't go away. I want to bring back Christine, because I know she would like to have a moment to speak with all of us as well. So would you please welcome, hi everyone, again, our Executive Director, Christine Ward. Hi, Christine.
Hi, well, thank you so much. And yes, big shout out to Brookline Booksmith. They've been helping us with all the books that we've been promoting on the site so that people can order them in this wonderful time to be at home and read lots of great books. So. But Ben and Tanya and Kennedy, thank you so much. So you're so generous to donate your time to us. We really appreciate it. And Ben, I love how you incorporated all this research and history and science into your book. And I loved Kennedy's image of it's like a love story for Boston. I totally agree with that. And I will say, I think it took me longer to read it than it did for you to write it. I kind of would binge read the Mechanic because I wanted more and more. So I saved up a couple of days, but thank you so much for sharing your wonderful story with all of us. And I wanted to thank you also for doing the literary challenge. So we're so thrilled to have 3 wonderful winners. Very, very gracious of you. And just wanted to say thank you. And I think Ian kind of shared this sentiment at the beginning, but now is the time where escapes provide that joy and comfort that everybody needs. So please help support Raising a Reader so we can continue to share our love of reading. And thank you.
Yes. And I just want to say Tom Pillsworth made a donation during this Live with an Author event. So thank you, Tom. And he says he's a Bitcoin miner and that he's willing to send Raising a Reader Massachusetts their first piece of a Bitcoin. So would somebody in the chat please take Tom up on that? And then I just want to say to the rest of you, if anybody does have a spare Bitcoin lying around in their computer that you want to just text over, we would love to have that happen. And I want to mention that we are continuing to plan for and think about our dinner with an author, which we're planning to have on October 15th. And Ben and Tanya have been to many of them. I have actually never been to one, but I hear it's very fun, and we are planning to have it be very fun this year. It will be a virtual event, but that doesn't make it any less live or fun. In fact, maybe even more. And then one final thing before we all say goodbye and thank you last time. Even though we are meeting at this unusual Thursday evening time, because of course we wanted to acknowledge and all be part of Blackout Tuesday. The next Tuesday, we will have another very exciting author and actor, Marianne Leone, who people may recognize from The Sopranos, will be with us. And she is going to be in conversation with another author, Christopher Castellani. So it's actually going to be like live with an author, which we're very excited about. It's like 2 authors for the price of 1. And of course, the price is free. So please come and join us on Tuesday. Thank you so much. And Kennedy, just thank you again.
My pleasure, 100% my pleasure.
Yeah, so I'm gonna, last words to the Mezrichs. Anything else? And if not, we can wave and say thanks to everyone.
No, thank you very much. It was so much fun as usual, and everybody have a great weekend coming up.
Thank you guys.
Thanks all. Bye.